Hi, my beautiful brothers and sisters. This is Mary Hernandez with Genesis Kingdom, Part 1. Today's title, I picked Samson's Sweeter, it's a sweeter, bitter victory that he had. You know, it's a sweet victory, but it was also bitterness in it. And I'm going to forward. I'm already in Judges, and I have posted a lot about why is it that we kept staying around on our way into the promised land was because of sin. And it also had a couple more chapters in Judges that I had told you kind of research, and the reason why we will stay someplace for 7 years is because of sin kept going. So I was going to read a little bit more on it, but, you know, I thought I'll fast forward because I've done pretty much a lot on it. It doesn't mean I will not come back and do it again, because I definitely will. It could be one Bible verse that'll bring me back to Judges. But at the end of the day, it's all victorious and it is beautiful. So I'm going to start off fast forward after the birth of Samson. How angel of God ended up visiting Samson's mom and then blessed her, and she ended up having a prophet, was to go deliver you into the promised land. And you see, as the life stories, I always say the beautiful men of God that died for the cause, and again, repetitively, the Bible will tell you what was their downfall. What was your downfall? What was my downfall? You know, and I know a lot of times it's kind of like a hard pill to swallow, you know, but swallow it and understand where we're at and why is it that we've been held back for so long and not getting into the promised land is because our own desires. I think it's in Galatians where it talks about the spirit is weak. The spirit is weak, if I'm correct, but the flesh is willing. Hold on, let me actually look it up. Oh, actually, I'm wrong. It's actually Matthew 26:41. It says, watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. You know, let that sink in, because this has been the bigger downfall. And I get it. I get some, because we've been accustomed to believing that that was okay. And it's not. It's sin. Excuse me. So with that being said, let's get to it. Into the story of Mr. Samson. Judges 15. And this is already when he had picked his first wife. And so he's coming back from going a little bit of battle. And this is him going to his family, pretty much to go and check on his family. Excuse me. Now, Judges 15. But it came to pass within a while after, in time of wheat and harvest, that Samson visited his wife with kid. And he said, I will go to my wife and into the chamber. But her father suffered him not to go in. And this is like he had went gone and he came back to visit her. So his father's saying, no. He says, after her father said, I verily thought that you had utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion that is not her younger sister, fairer than she is, that I pray thee instead of her. So when he went back, the father tells him, you know, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't think you liked my daughter, so I gave her to your companion. But however, I have a daughter. I have another daughter that she's younger, Isn't she better than her? In the Bible, we all know that I believe, but don't quote me on it. I know for sure that women get burned for sinning, and then kind of you have to pretty much be put through the fire, trials and tribulations, and, bring back because of sin. So, and Samson went in and caught 300 foxes, took the fire bands, and turned tail to the tail, but put the fire band in the midst between two tails. But when he set the bands on fire, he let them to go into standing of the corn of the Philistines, and burned up both the shocks and also standing corn of the vineyard and the olives. Then the Philistines said, "Who had done this?" "The son of the law of the Temanite, because he had taken his wife and given her to his companion." And the Philistines came up and they burned her and the father with fire. It's in the Bible. If you remember the story of Daniel, the enemy put him through the fire, but God was with them because they hadn't. Sin sometimes put us there. Sometimes the enemy puts us there, but if you repent and you live right, God will see you through that fire. Sin is sin. At the end of the day, he could have waited for we could look, what I look at is the marital values of a marriage, a little, rewind a little bit backwards on the story before that. It talks about Samson telling his family a parable, and everybody knows that God spoke in parables. And they were trying to find out what that parable meant, and he was really hateful towards her. And he said, "If I don't tell my parents what the answer is for the parable, what am I going to tell you?" And I actually was going to start off there so you could look it up and what the parable meant. Maybe before I finish this one, I could go back and try to find it real quick. So you just have to be patient with me as I look through some pages. And maybe you could do some study and find out what the parable is. I did some studying, but it's also maybe that'll help you kind of understand a little bit of the parables, because it took me a little bit. I remember I was so scared of, it was Proverbs, and maybe, I think it's another one that's before that I said, I don't get it. I was afraid of it, and I said, God, I don't understand it, but it's because, if you read it, it's common sense. Believe it or not, and a little bit of studying that tells you from right and wrong, But I was like, at first, I had to read it. I had to meditate on it because I didn't understand it. But in the reality, you end up getting it, and you're like, oh, okay. So I'll go back a page or two, and before I close up this chapter and go to page 2. Of Samson's bittersweet victory, Samson said unto them, "Though he had done this, yet will I avenge of you, and after I will cease." And he smote them hip and thigh in the great slaughter. And he went down and he dwelt with the top of the rock of Etam. And it says, and the Philistines went up and they pitched in Judah, and they spread themselves in Lehi. And the men of Judah said, "Why are you to come up against us?" And they answered, "To bind Samson. We are to come up to do what he had done unto us." And if you know the story of Samson, it's almost like all of us that are God's prophets. That when we go in, God gives us the victory and he removes it. So they seen him as a threat because he was going in, just like with David. Why did Saul was being so jealous of David? Was because people started saying, well, David went in, and Saul is saying, well, I killed 1,000, and people are like, yeah, but you should hear David. David has killed 100,000. And we're talking about demonic entities, our enemies, that have been torturing, giving our family, kicking them us out of our own states and cities and vineyards that we owed. Okay? This is not people that are heavenly angels, you know? So this is who's been at war with our family from the very beginning, from Genesis all the way to Revelation, you know? And so this is where Samson is at, okay? So then he said, 3,000 men of Judah went up to the top of the rock of Etam, and they said to Samson, knowest thou not that the Philistines are rulers over us? Because we're in captivity, right? And what is this that thou hast done unto us? He said unto them, as they did unto me, so I have done unto them. And they said unto him, we have to come down and bind thee, that we may deliver thee into the hands of the Philistines. And Samson said unto them, swear unto me that you will not fall upon me yourself, because God has sent him in there to deliver them, but they were in captivity with them. So they're saying, hey, they send me to bind you up and take you, so you know that we're in captivity here, right? And Samson is saying, hey, do you know what you're doing? And then he said, and they spake unto him, saying, no, but we will bind thee fast and deliver thee into the hands. Be surely that we will not kill thee. But they bound him with 2 new cords, and they brought him up from the rock. When he came up to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, the Spirit of the Lord has came mightily upon him, and the cords were upon his arms. When as they flax that they was burned with fire, and his bands they loosed them off of his hands. And when he found the new jawbone for an ass, he put forth his hand, and he took it. He slew 1,000 men therewith. You know, that's the power that we walk in, but it has to be humble. You know, there's a really demonic world that is our real enemy. And a lot of people probably say, why don't I care what people say? Because I don't care. You know, all those are distractions. Probably some of you don't know that you're being used. Some of you might know it. But at the end of the day, you're not my enemy. So it's kind of like, scoot over, move out of my way. My Father gives me the victory to go in there and take territory, and he fights the battles for me. All I do is pray my way through the battles. What does it say in Joshua? You walk around and you pray until the walls fall down. So you understand there's a real demonic world that we're fighting. It's not each other. Rather you know it, or rather you still want to continue pouting or whatever. I don't get lost in the sauce. You know, I get lost in my calling. That's it, is to finish my course and to keep the faith, and he does the rest. Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass and the heaps upon the heaps and the jaw of an ass, that I have slain 1,000 men. It came up to pass when he made the end of speaking that he cast away the jawbone out of his hands. That is called the place of Ramah Lehi. But he was sore in athirst that he called the Lord, and he said, thou hast given this great deliverance into the hand of thy servant. Now shall I die for the thirst that I fall in the hand of the uncircumcised. And what does uncircumcised mean? It's people that are still living in sin. So they're considered unclean, they're considered uncircumcised. But God clave unto the hollow place, and there was a jaw, and they came of water throughout. But when he had drunk his spirit, he came again, and he revived. Wherefore he called the name, therefore is this Anahekor, which is in Lehi. Unto this day he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. You know, when you read some of them, on some of them it's like 7 years. Some of them were in captivity for 14 years. Say this one was like 20 years, and one was 40 years. And then you ask yourself, why? It's because we continue sinning. And it tells you time and time again, even the prophets, it was saying, the high priest, the elders, everyone. And God is saying, what? Are you kidding me? What is going on? You know, is sin really that hard to give up? It isn't. It isn't, but the enemy it's because you want to fit in. That's what it is. You don't want to be called different. You don't want to be called misfit. You know, you don't want to be called bougie. Now they call it bougie, you know, and that's okay to be called that, because that means you stand out. You were born to stand out, not to fit in. You know what I'm saying? So if you're fitting in, you better ask yourself, Hey, I bind and rebuke that. I'd rather go over here with church leaders, world leaders, and you tell by the fruit. And sometimes God puts you in the midst of them because sometimes they're lukewarm. Sometimes they say, well, I'm serving you. I'm showing up to church. I'm doing my 10%. But what does God say? Your heart is far from me. So what if you were put there because you are living right, is to also be that ear for them or be the eyes that they can't see and direct them in the right path. I've seen it. I was like, God, why would you put me here? This is people that have done me wrong. But that's why he says, love those that prosecute you. And I got to learn why, because they were also lost souls like I was. I'm healed now, so they could see me and saying, well, he did it for me. He could do it for you. You know what I'm saying? It's just going into remission of sin, not continue sinning and think, oh, well, Mary's going to get a free pass because she's serving good. So let me just go sin one more time and I'll be right back. No, then I would have to start all over again. Does he know at the beginning? Yeah, but after you know that that's a pathway to hell and you're still doing it, you're reaping what you sow. And then it tells you over and over again in Judges, God, where are you? He says, I continue answering you. But you still go over there and you're playing harlot. Well, let your God that you're praying for, because they were worshiping other gods and other idols. He said, let them deliver you. They're not going to because they don't want you to. You got to realize who's your real enemy, and you're so lost in the sauce and you think, oh, they're my best friends. Wrong. Oh, I have this fine girl. Oh, I have this fine dude. No, you don't. The devil has them and he sent them there for you. And Samson is a perfect example of it. Judges 16. They went to Samson to Gaza, and they saw there a harlot, and he went unto her, and he said unto Gaza, saying, Samson, it says, it come hither. And they compassed him, and they laid a wait for him in the night in the gate of the city. And there in the quiet night, saying in the morning, when is this day that we shall kill him? They were there. They had caught him in their eyes. This is the man that has been hurting, killing our people. Do you understand how evil fights for evil? Meaning you're coming after my evil people, that they sit there and they plan how to do it. And here, God's people are planning with the demonic world to take their brothers and sisters out. We already have an enemy that's trying to do that. And here you are selling yourself short and fighting with the enemy because you're so jealous. Because whatever it is, I don't know. But that's what he wants you to get lost in, not knowing that they're sent there to save you. He was taking down the dark world, and the dark world put him in there and said, all right, how are we going to take this person down? And then you got some of God's people that are saying, hey, yeah, come on, let's go. I want to help you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, do you not get it? Now it says, and Samson lay until the midnight, arose at midnight, and he took the doors of the gate of the city. It says the two posts that went away with them in the bar and all, that they put them upon his shoulders, and they carried them up to the top of the hill, and it became Hebron. It says, and it came to pass afterwards, and he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek. It says, whose name was Delilah. Everyone knows that story, right? Hey, Miss Delilah. Okay, no, that song is different, but you know what I'm saying? It's Delilah, right? Do you have a Delilah in there? And I don't think I have heard, but, hey, you also have a Blam that somebody sent, or BL that he sent somebody for you women. Stop letting them fool you, because they get paid to get you to sin. They get paid for you to break the code. Don't think that you're that special, honey. They pretend and they cry, oh, I cannot believe you're leaving me, because they said, don't you dare let him go. You better hold on until you finish what I had asked you to do. Actually, the exact words is until you bring me their soul. And they have you there and they're fishing. And they keep reeling you in, reeling you in. If you try to go a little bit, they reel you back in. You're hooked. But you're hooked on the wrong one. Get hooked on Father. Get hooked on my Father Jehovah. Get hooked on the King. Get hooked on that Bible and deliver yourself from the hands of an enemy that wants you so bad to lose your soul. the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and they said unto her, entice him. See wherein that he has great strength that lieth. They're trying to find out his code. And but those of you that are doing right in God's eyes, don't tell me you haven't had them approach you and be like, what is it? I had them approach me. Real talk. What is it? What is it? What is your strength? What is it that keeps you going? That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what they asked me. And I said, because I want the world to see that my Father Jehovah is real. And because I promised my boys I would come back and get him. Oh, so motivation, huh? Motivation. Trust me, it's out there and you're in the midst of it, in the midst around, and you think, because you got to understand, this man did a covet with people from Iran, people from China, people from them that want our biggest enemies, and even people in United States. But remember, not everybody in that tree, it's a sour apple. Not all of it is a rotten apple. So we can't point fingers, but we could pray for them. But our biggest enemy was in the midst of all of us. There was a Delilah in there. Wake up. Wake up. Their mission is to keep you there. They think by keeping you there that that's going to stop God's calling. And he said, if you don't want to do it, I'll pick somebody else that does. Don't think that they cannot be used. He will. There's some people that are willing to step up and do it. Step up and live right. So when you're asking yourself, why is it not you? Well, then ask him, do you have a Delilah? And that applies to anything. Are you in the midst of people that God has removed from you because they're trying to bring you down? Even our own family. My mom got sold out. Come on. You don't think he's working? Yeah, they all got sold out. The lords of the Philistines came up to her, and they said unto her, entice him, and see wherein that in his great strength lieth, and by the means that we may prevail against him, that we may bind him and afflict him, and that we may give him every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. That was the price. Remember I told you, there's a thing, they call it danda, and I learned that from the past place where I was at, that they have a danda, they put a bid, they put money in there, and they're like, all right, well, bring me her soul, and bring me her soul is get her to sin, get her to do that, or get her to repeat a season, and you got to wake up. You got to wake up. People get paid and people sell out. I didn't. I said they were selling and I wasn't buying. I wasn't buying. It says, Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7 green it says they were never dried, that were never dried, that they shall be weak and be as another man. So she's saying, what is your strength? What is it that that is having you, that you're able to take down this whole entire kingdom? So they told her, ask him, find out, either pick him up, make him feel like he's special, entice him, it says. And she's asking, hey, what is your strength? So, of course, he tells her, well, if you bind me up with a rope, it says with a green, actually it says, Samson said unto her, if you bind me with 7 green and that they were never dried, that then he said, shall I be weak and be as another man? So he's saying that, right? Then the lords of the Philistines brought her up 7 green and had not been dried, and bound him with them. Okay, so they did it. Now there were men lying in the wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, the Philistines been upon thee, Samson, that he break the width and thread of tow in the broken where it touched the fire, so his strength was not known. Because it didn't work. He was really, I would have, honestly, when she had asked, I would have asked, well, she asked that, I would have brushed it off, right? But then she brings it and ties him up. You would think that he would ask, well, why did you ask that time me? Are you setting me up? No, he didn't, because he was lost in Delilah's world. And Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me. She's like still telling him, knowing that she had set him up. She said, you mocked me. You lied to me. She said, Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Now you tell me, and I pray thee, worthy, that thou mightest be bound. that he said unto her, if they bind me fast with new robes that they never had occupied, it says, then I shall be weak as another man. Delilah therefore took new robes, bound him therewith, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. So she acts like she's waking him up. Hey, they're coming, because she got tied him. And she said, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait, abiding in the chambers. He brake them from off of him, and his arms were like thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitter, thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest 7 locks of my head with the web. She fastened with him in the pen, and she said unto him, the Philistines were upon thee. And Samson was awakened out of his sleep, and went into the pen of Bim, and with the web. She said unto him, canst thou say that I love thee in thine heart, and it is not with me? Thou hast mocked me with this 3 times, and hast told me, where is thy great strength lieth? So I'm going to start part 2, only because I don't have enough time to finish it, and I don't want to so we'll do the part 2 where he's still lost in the Delilah moment. And the sad thing to the story is bittersweet. He actually did not even open his eyes until his eyes were gouged out, Do not be blinded by the enemy in thinking that you have somebody that's like loyal. The only loyal one that never leaves you and never forsakes you is the creator of the ends of the earth. Even when things don't make sense, ask him. Ask him. Tell him, I don't want to sin against you. Help me. I want to finish this course. I'm going to break this generational curse in my family. It's going to heal all my family, what I'm about to do, that he's doing it through me. He gave me the victory. Alone, I would have been done a long time ago, but I was never alone. And he put me on that mission. I said, I know that I could do all things to Christ. I didn't say I could do all things to Mary, but I know he's my strength, always has been. He's the anchor of my soul. Let that be your anchor. It tells you, do not put your trust in a prince. Do not put your trust in a man. Then you don't need to be a servant of mine. They also need not to put a trust in a Delilah because they do. Do not put your trust in a Delilah because they were sent there. Just like that. 30 pence. If she probably got a little bit more than 30 pence. So, So just remember that. But I'll do part 2 of the bittersweet of Samson's victory. Shalom, shalom.